Hello and welcome to Throwback Thursday. Today I've got a really sweet email that I received today. This is by somebody who's watched 2 of the 4 of my free training videos. If you haven't got the free training videos, get the free training videos. The link is up there, the free training videos, oddly enough. Anyway, this person had a really good comment about it. And they're slightly concerned that their horse is going to get confused. So the horse has learned something, and I'll read this to you in a sec and explain what the confusion is about. So they're worried about changing the way that they train. Will the horse get confused? And it's a great question. So let me read it. Anyway, hi, Kate. I'm a 74-year-old guy who purchased a 2-year-old Friesian. Now, you know, you had me at hello. How fabulous is that? He goes on to say, I've never trained a horse. I love it. I just love it. It's super. But I've been in love with this boy since he was born. This is so sweet. Unfortunately, after the acquisition, then he had some issues with some veterinary problems with the horse. Anyway, the horse is fine now. So the second paragraph of his email reads, I've viewed your 4 introductory videos and have been very taken by your attitude, mannerisms and skills. Yeah, sweet. However, I'm balking at going further with you because of a conflict I've encountered. And I'm reading this going, oh my God, what sort of conflict have you encountered? Anyway, he says, that has to do with the mounting video where you tap the near hip to have the horse move towards you. And those of you who have watched that lesson, hips to the fence inside the training, it's called. We tap the hip and we get the hip to move towards the mounting block, so that when you're standing on the mounting block and you're trying to get on, you put your left foot up towards the stirrup and the horse swings its ass away from the mounting block and you fall on the floor. That won't happen. So when you stand on the mounting block, you look at the hip and you click your fingers at the hip and the hip comes towards you, so the horse is standing next to the mounting block for you. That's what the lesson is all about. And that's what he's got a problem with. So he says, I've been tapping to have my boy move away. And that is the most common thing to do, isn't it? It's most common to get the horse to move away from pressure. And this lesson is very much getting the horse to move in towards the pressure. I was able to get him to come to the tap on the ground within your stated 5 minutes. And I do say in that lesson, it should take about 5 minutes to get your horse to move its hips towards you. Well and steadily, rather than, just the first time. So take you 5 minutes to get a really good response. Hey, move your hips this way, and the hips will move. But as soon as we were at the mounting block, he wanted to move his hips away. This got me to thinking about other scenarios of potential contradiction or confusion for us. And how do you suggest we go forward with this? So I thought that was great. Now, let me first of all say what I think has happened here with this particular horse. I think what's happened is, yes, there will be some confusion. If the horse has already been taught to move away from pressure with that particular cue, so I tap your hip, you move your hip away from me. If a horse has already been taught that, that's absolutely fine. There's no reason why we shouldn't teach something else. So he's taught it, and he said he's done the 5 minutes, the horse has got it. Now, the reason the horse has got it on the ground before he stands on the mounting block is that it's easier for the horse before you get on the mounting block, because we teach it against the fence, and so the horse has fewer choices about where to move. So what I think has happened is he's gone to the mounting block a little bit too fast. So before the horse has really made that mental connection, raise the whip or click your fingers, move the hips towards you. And before the horse has really got that connected, he's moved to the mounting block, and the horse has then been faced with the choice, should I move my hips left or right? I'll go with the response that I know better. I'll move my hips to the right. So all I would do there is just go back to the fence and really connect that cue up. So what I did do for this gentleman was I suggested that he do just that. I suggested he go back to the fence and then perhaps try some side pass down the fence, which is something that's also in that video, where you move the shoulders, then you move the hindquarters, then you move the shoulders, and you get the horse to actually side pass down the fence. And that gives you a very good connection with the whip cue or the clicking your finger cue and the hindquarters. That connects it up really well. So the other thing that I said was, you know, he obviously has made that good connection. So the horse has learnt that new cue. But if you're worried about having a very similar cue, because with the hips to the fence, I really teach that because I've got such short legs. This gentleman told me he was 6'2" as well, so he really didn't need this exercise, which is fine, don't teach it. But I do need it. But if you're worried that your horse is going to be confused, then you can always move that cue, the tapping, somewhere else. What I do is I transfer that cue to the clicking the fingers really quickly. So I'll tap the hip until I get movement, and then raising the whip. The horse knows what's coming because my pattern is good. So raising the whip will get movement of the hips towards me, and then eventually I just need to look or tap my fingers towards the hips and they move. So pretty quickly the tapping is out the window, probably after sort of 3 minutes of starting that cue. And then later on, the cue actually becomes me standing on the mounting block, and the horse knows, oh, I know what to do. I just stand there and wait till she gets on. So that's the way you do it. On the subject of confusing the horse, well, you know, we're funny about this, aren't we? Because we all know, and we see this all the time, oh, a horse can feel a fly land on it. You know, some people have cues, like 6 or 7 cues up the belly of their horse, which they use in a really refined manner with, you know, a touch of a spur or something. I don't do that, but some people do. You know, horses can differentiate between those things. To assume that a touch of the rein means stop, or to assume that a touch of the whip means move away or go forward, it's not necessarily the case. We can really refine that. If right at the beginning the horse is a little bit confused, that's sort of okay as well. I mean, the horse really can't be expected to know the lesson before you teach it. The horse has to learn. Sometimes learning involves a little bit of confusion. If the horse is confused for 10 minutes, you're barking up the wrong tree. You know, you're doing something wrong. If the horse is confused for 30 seconds, then that's okay. The horse will get over that because you're making it clear. If you feel your horse is very confused, then you're not making it clear enough. A lot of horses go through their entire riding career completely confused because they're getting conflicting signals all the time. Like, you know, the dressage riders that are pulling up in front and kicking or squeezing with their spurs behind and lifting the horse up. And that's very confusing because there's a lot of unrelenting pressure here. What this gentleman was talking about here, the horse was confused for a couple of seconds where it didn't know whether it should step left or right. And it's quite a different deal. So it's a learning process. The horse will trial different responses. So I'm putting the horse under some pressure. I might only be lifting the whip towards the hips, but the horse is under some pressure and it has 6 directions it can move those hips. It can go left, right, up, down, back, forward. And we only want left. And so we're going to release or stop tapping or stop looking at the hip when the horse steps to the left. So is the horse confused when it's trialing all of the other options? Possibly a bit. The horse is also learning. So let's not get too, you know, let's not stop the horse from learning because we're worried about confusing the horse. Let's give the horse the opportunity to learn and trial some different responses. Even if it's a response that the horse has been taught before, we want the horse to do something slightly different, then it's a new cue for the horse. And if you feel that you need to move that cue slightly on the horse, what I sometimes do, especially when I'm teaching give to the bit, so that softness in the bridle and getting the horse into the bubble of communication. If I'm doing that at the same time as I'm teaching the horse hips to the fence, they do sometimes get confused about go forward around me or move your hips towards me, because that's a really similar cue. So I will keep the tapping of the hip for go forward around me, and I'll move the whip down towards the gaskin or somewhere between the hip and the hock for move your hips towards me. And that clears it up really quickly for you. You know, if you're confused about it, your horse is going to be confused about it. If you're not, if it's really clear in your mind, the spot you want to move, the direction you want that to go, what your motivator is and what your reward is, then you can make that clear to the horse. So coming back to this fellow's hips to the fence, the spot on the horse was the left foot. The direction he wanted it to go was left. His motivator was the whip. Wherever that cue was, it was just a light tapping with the whip, and the reward was to release that, stop tapping, and praise the horse. So as long as that's clear, you can move your motivator around a little bit to make that easier for the horse or easier for you. But as long as your 4 principles are in place, then you should be set. Anyway, so that was it. That was really what I told this 74-year-old gentleman, and I'm pleased to say he is now inside the online training, so that is all fabulous, and I look forward to hearing all about how his horse is progressing, and I look forward to seeing you in there as well. And tomorrow, of course, for Friday Fitness. Oh my God. See you then. Bye.